Good afternoon. It is 5 p.m. here on Tuesday, the 5th of October, 2021. My name is Arran Hunt. I am the partner at Stace Hammond, and I head up the immigration team there. As always, this is not legal advice. It's just our commentary on immigration here in New Zealand. If you're looking for legal advice, please get in contact with us at the addresses down below. We want to do a quick video today just to answer a few of the questions we are seeing popping up a lot regarding the new one-off residence visa. We also wanted to make some clarifications around the new vaccinations required for MIQ. We're going to start with that first, so to get that out of the way. So I had a question about that from somebody today. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear. Now, the announcement was that from 1 November, those coming into MIQ into New Zealand who weren't citizens must be fully vaccinated. So that's starting actually less than a month's time. It was announced in the last few days. Now, just to clarify, that is not that those who are vaccinated may enter the country. It is instead those who are entering the country may be vaccinated. Now, the difference between those two things is that this is not making it wider, making it easier to come to New Zealand. It is meaning that those who have gotten a border exception for whatever reason must be vaccinated. So if you are coming to New Zealand and you have a border exception, you manage to get through MIQ, and bravo for that. You must be vaccinated if you want to come to New Zealand, otherwise you will not be coming. And that starts 1 November, so that's arrival in New Zealand on 1 November. You must be vaccinated and be able to show it. Now, there's no word yet as to what vaccinations they are, whether you're coming from a country who has its own vaccination type, such as China, whether they're going to be eligible or not. We're going to keep an eye out for that to see what can be shown and what requirement you have to show that vaccination, as there is no sort of one global vaccine system to show the vaccination being taking place. New Zealand still has no sort of vaccine passport that they do in Europe. So we're going to see that coming through hopefully pretty shortly, so that you know whether you actually can come into the country. And for those of you who perhaps have MIQ places but are not vaccinated and cannot get vaccinated in time to come on 1 November or after, then that's going to be a big, massive blow for you. So definitely, if you are sort of coming into vaccination, into MIQ into New Zealand, go get that vaccination sorted out as soon as possible, and keep an eye out to what vaccinations are going to be allowed. Now, we want to just quickly just touch on a bit on the one-off residence visa that we announced a couple of days ago. Now, I am doing a session tomorrow night, New Zealand time, 7 p.m. New Zealand time, with Erica Stanford MP on her Facebook account. I will leave a link to that event in the description below. If you're watching this in a few days' time, you may have missed it, but it will still be available on her page anyway. We're going to be going through some of the issues we see with this, how it's interpreted, how it's going to work. We are still waiting for the official rules to come through. We're expecting those to come through at some point this month. When they come through, we will be doing a full breakdown of how this is going to work, definitely looking at future issues, but also the process, the fees, what you need to get prepared in advance. Now, we are setting up an email list at our firm at Stace Hammond for those of you who do want to be notified about when this information comes in, and as to how we can sort of assist you with the application. I will leave in the description below an email address that you can email, and my amazing assistant Yuan will add you to the list of people who will get contacted when we have that information, and we can sort of know and advise you where to from now and how it's going to take place. Now, we wanted to cover just a quick few things today. We'll cover more on these going forward when we get more clarity. But for now, this is as far as we know from the limited information that has been released. First thing is regarding partners. Now, all partners types or partner visas are not on the eligible list. So if you are on a partner's visa as at 29 September 2021, you are not eligible for this. No matter what your job is, no matter how much you earn, no matter how long you've been in New Zealand. We believe this is incorrect. We believe this is a poor way of doing it, but unfortunately right now that is how it is being done. And the same goes that if you have one partner who is on the partners list and another who's on the essential skills list, and then on 29th of September that was the situation, and after that point you sort of change places, don't do that. That is, remember, you have to maintain an eligible status both when you on the 29th of September, but also when you apply for the visa. So if you do change places, you cannot be eligible at both points. So if you are the one who is on an essential skills work visa now, stay on it or get a new one if it's running out. If you're on post-study work visa, stay on it or get an essential skills if it's running out. Speaking of post-study work visas, actually, what comes to mind, I had a note, I've got some notes here I'm looking at, that's why I'm looking across here. There was an article put out by the Chinese Herald a couple of days ago that was based on an interview that the Minister Chris Fafoy had with the media for the various migrant communities. In that, they mentioned that he mentioned there was going to be a rollover of post-study work visas for when those who were to expire prior to the 1st of March. Now, we've only seen this mentioned in that one interview, but only mentioned in the translation of the Chinese Herald. So we didn't see the interview. We cannot confirm if what was said is what was said, if that for what's been reported was what was said. So right now we are just going by what they have said, and we're not sure as to whether it's correctly interpreted or not from what he was saying, or whether, yeah, well, we're trying to find more information about that, and hopefully we get an understanding of that. With the current ways that the essential skills work visa is being granted, basically with an application is being effectively enough if you already hold the job to be granted essential skills work visa with no need for any sort of labour market test or even providing new medicals or police certificates. If you are on a post-study work visa and you have a job, we'll be saying to our clients in that position to go and apply for essential skills work visa, get rid of that uncertainty. If you don't have a job, you're on post-study work visa, definitely keep an eye, an ear out as to what's going on. If there is going to be this rollover that they quoted the minister in saying, as I said, we haven't heard anything yet. So we're just going by what they've said. Next thing we want to talk about is the day count, is this 821 days. So actually before that, we will go through the requirements. So there is generally sort of two pathways into this. The first that most of you will go through is the being in New Zealand 29th of September, and then having from that, you meeting one of three requirements. Now, if you're in the country on 29th of September and you are here on an eligible work visa, we'll definitely include that in there. You can then either come apply under having a wage of $27 per hour or greater, working in one of these scarcity list areas, and that is quite a wide-ranging area of scarcity lists, or being in New Zealand for at least 821 days in the past 3 years. Now, I'm going to quickly just cover those, or two of those three requirements now, just to add some more clarity to them. For the day count, now we don't have the official wording, of course, from the operational manual changes. We'll have those for a few weeks yet. So it's hard to say with any sort of definitive idea of, you know, this is how exactly it's going to be. But we've seen it worded in a couple of different ways in different websites, immigration websites, and what they've put out there. That it's 821 days in the last 3 years. However, one of the websites does state you must be in New Zealand on or prior to 29th of September 2018. We want to see the actual wording from the operational manual before we start saying to clients, yeah, you've got 821 days, but if you weren't here on or before that day, you're not going to work, you're not going to fit in there. So we're still waiting to see whether that is going to, or how they're going to word that requirement, because it's how they word it could completely change how it's going to be impacting people. So for now, if you are on 821 days, but you weren't here on or before 29 September 2018, just hold on now. Don't be happy or sad just yet. We'll wait until we see the official rules or confirmation from immigration. Now, those of you who are looking to apply it by having a job that's listed on the, what they call the scarce list, there is 4 areas that fall under the scarce list. So we've got jobs on the long-term skill shortage list. We've got jobs requiring occupational registration in the health or education sector, personal care or other critical health workers, and then specified primary sector jobs. Now, just to give some idea about that, now, quickly we'll start sort of probably going actually through those in reverse quickly. So the primary sector jobs, they are jobs that, well, generally in the primary sector. So you're looking at agriculture, horticulture, arborist. It does extend to things like baker is in there, chef is in there, chemist is in there. It is actually a lot wider than perhaps you first think of. Florist is in there, fishing hand, fencer, farrier. There's a number of roles that are actually in here, including fruit and nut picker, which is just fantastic for those who are working in the fruit and nut industry. And this may actually sort of now get you into residence. The next one we've got is personal carers and other critical health workers. So you've got aged and disabled carers, which I know a lot of you are in that, doing a fantastic job in that. Nursing support, personal care workers. These are often jobs that are in that personal care or health critical sector, which don't require registration. Because the registration ones come under the other list, which is the requiring occupational registration and in the health or education sector. So in there we've got dentist, therapist, dentist, dietitian, we've got midwives, nurses, all those jobs are in the osteopath, paramedic, pharmacist, podiatrist, psychologist, teacher, whether you're in the ECE or in the principal, secondary, early education, all those sorts of categories. You're all falling under medical practitioner, the doctors in there as well, medical practitioners in there. So that's falling under the health and education sector that requires registration. And that brings us to the long-term skill shortage list. So the LTSSL is part of the scarcity list, as we said. The difference here is that typically when you're going for an LTSSL visa is that you need to show that you meet the requirements of the LTSSL, the list. The list itself, it's similar to the ANSCO requirements where if you're doing this job, you must meet this threshold of qualification or experience in place and perhaps be registered depending on the job. With this, it's a much higher threshold where ANSCO may require a certain diploma or 3 years of experience. The shortage list may require a higher qualification plus 3 years experience on top of that after the qualification. So the idea is that ANSCO says that you have enough knowledge to perhaps work out how to do the job, do the job okay. LTSSL means that you have enough experience to do the job well and that they can sort of be happy that you're going to do a good job in that position, which we see as being a shortage. The wording here is that they're not going to be requiring people to meet those requirements. So if the ANSCO, if the LTSSL states you're required to have a qualification plus 4 years post-qualification experience, they're not going to ask that. They're going to ask that the job description needs to reflect experience and the skills. So the job description needs to show that, say you're going to be for a chef, you don't require to have the qualification plus 4 years experience. It might just be that you have 3 years of experience as a chef, and that could be enough for the residence visa. Which is a very large step down from the requirement, especially if you're going in under having this shortage list role, even though you are not even close to meeting the requirements for being on that list. So that is a very interesting point that we've seen. We're interested to see as to how that's going to work when we see the official rules. Now moving on, because don't get too boring for you guys, this just fascinates me as a lawyer. So yeah, you said the one requirement. So yeah, there's, as I said before, there is the 2 paths on there. One way is you're in New Zealand 29th of September, and you have one of those 3 things. The other way is that you go through CPVV. So you come into New Zealand on a critical purpose visitor visa on the basis that you're coming here to work and you have a right to work for more than 6 months. Now, there is a weird thing here, though, is that looking at the wording they provided us for that is that it says here, 2 groups of CPVV visitor holders will be eligible as long as you arrive in New Zealand and apply before 31st July 2022. Now, that's critical health workers for roles of 6 months or more, and other critical workers with roles of more than 6 months. So one's 6 months or more, the other one's just more. Now, the issue here is that this says that you must, as long as you arrive in New Zealand and apply before 31st of July. So there is no requirement, it seems, to be in New Zealand at this point, or to have applied for the visa at this point. Now, if you go through to the eligibility checker, which we're going to link to down below, if you go into that and you enter in, it says, what visa did you hold or had you applied for on 29 September? Now, if you haven't applied for a CPVV yet, and you say my visa's not on the list, or there's actually no option for I don't have a visa, I don't think. No, there isn't. Then it just says you're probably not going to be eligible for it, even though on the previous page it actually says, well, you could be eligible if you apply for a CPVV and you're here before 31st of July 2022. So there's a bit of a conflict there between the 2 pages as to which is actually showing the correct rules. Now, with CPVV, you get the right to enter the country for 6 months. So if someone had applied on the 29th of September and it was granted, say, a month later, 29th of October, if they have 6 months to arrive in the country, that's well before 31st of July 2022. So this cut-off of 31st of July 2022 seems to not make sense in that regard either. That it's either they expect the applications now or prior to 20th of September are going to take months to process, or whoever did this eligibility section didn't quite understand what the other party was writing on the other page. So we're going to wait for clarification on that as well, where our take from the wording is that those who get CPVVs and enter New Zealand, and when they applied for, they enter New Zealand prior to 31st of July, as long as they have that 6 months or more than 6 months right to work in New Zealand through critical health or other critical worker, that you should be eligible for this visa. Now, if that is the case, and that seems to be how we have read it so far, that creates an anomaly in that if you are in New Zealand now working in critical health, and it could be one of these aged carers sort of fall under that category, but you are on a visa that's ineligible. So if you are a partner of a student or you're a partner of a post-study work visa holder, then you are not eligible to apply for this new resident visa. Now, it seems that from this, and again, we haven't seen the official rules yet, this is just our first take on it. If you were to leave the country, apply for a CPVV and re-enter New Zealand on for the exact same job you already hold, you'll be eligible for residence. So leaving the country makes you eligible, which we just can't see as being what was intended. This is either an anomaly or just really poorly drafted. So we're raising that. We're hopefully others will raise it with the minister and hopefully get that fixed. Personally, we think that those of you who are working in these critical health areas, who cares what visa you're on, whether you're on a partner visa or not, as long as you're lawfully working, you should be eligible for this. That's our view, but that is not what is currently being said in this rules. And you shouldn't have to leave the country to get residence. Next issue was casual work agreements. Now, we've had a number of people come to us asking us about being on casual agreements. So they're doing 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but their agreement is a casual agreement. Now, casual agreement is also what we sort of call a 0-hour agreement, in that they have no fixed hours. A casual agreement, there's no obligation for the employee to work or the employer to provide work. So if you're on a casual agreement and the employee goes to you, I think you work tomorrow, you can say no and he can't hold it against you. There's no expectation you're going to be there. Now, these people are actually in reality aren't on casual contracts. They are actually permanent employees. They're working regular rosters, regular shifts, and had there for some time. The use of a casual contract is, in my view, actually a breach of the Employment Relations Act, which requires a permanent contract for that role, and sort of bars use of casual contracts unless it's an actual casual scenario. Casual scenario basically is that, say you run a healthcare provider, you run an aged care facility, and every once in a while you may give someone a call and say, hey, so-and-so is sick, can you come in to work tomorrow? And then maybe another month or 3 weeks or 2 days, it happens again. There is no obligation for them to say yes, there's no obligation for you to provide work. That's a casual work environment. Working on a regular basis is not. Now, the reason I raise this is that when immigration, when you apply for this visa, in immigration, they may ask for an employment agreement, they may not, we don't know yet until we get the rules. But if they ask for an employment agreement and they look at it and they go, well, there's no obligation here for you to do 30 hours a week, the employer can just say to you, there's no work for you. They may suggest that you really actually aren't employed full time. And that could be a big issue. Now, when we handle our clients' applications for work visas or for residence visas and a skilled migrant, we always look at that and go to the employer, actually, this isn't quite right. Please change this, correct this, sign a new agreement so that it is fits within the Employment Relations Act. In this situation, that may not be something which you can get done, but if you are on one of those sort of casual contracts, you can talk to your employer about getting that fixed if there is an expectation for you to work and for them to provide work. Because if you want to go for this, that could be an issue that gets raised by immigration if they ask for an employment agreement. Now, if you're on a post-study work visa, you're not required to be employed. It shouldn't be an issue. But if you're going for this on the basis that you work in one of these scarce jobs or a critical health role, one of these areas where it gets you through without having to have the the median pay or the time in New Zealand, then definitely look at this now, try and get this resolved now before you need to provide anything to immigration if they do ask for it. Next thing is about offshore partners, and I know this will be discussed quite a bit probably in the video tomorrow. Erica raised this in her session she did on immigration, I think it was last night or night before, that if there is an allowance to include offshore partners in your applications, the issue we've got though is that if immigration needs you to provide the living together requirements, I've done a video on what living together means, we can't see how they're going to get through 100,000 applications within the time frame that they're trying to do it in, because you're looking at dozens of pages of documentation, to prove living together, and that takes time. Now they're looking at doing one or so applications per hour. They're not going to go through dozens of pages of documentation and give it the proper attention it needs. Now they can't just skim through it and go yes, no, and sort of well, what if my gut feeling get it? Because that's a breach of their own operational manual. They're not doing their job correctly. They're not doing it in line with other previous applications. So we're sort of wondering whether they're going to make this really easy to bring your partners from offshore, or they're not going to get through the numbers they expect in the time. So we have to wait and see what goes on there. Again, it's going to be in the rules when we get them. A couple of last things. We have seen a few guys online comment about having an SMC application and automatically making them eligible for this, and that is not correct. Most likely, if you are in an SMC, the queue, you've done the application, you've got past the pool, not just the EOI, that you passed that, you've done the application, you're sitting in queue, most likely for the vast majority of you, you will be eligible for this. You will meet one of those requirements. However, there will be some of you who applied perhaps when you were earning $25.50 per hour, you haven't got your $27, you might not have 3 years in New Zealand, and you may not be in a scarce role. You are not then eligible for this new visa. So, as I said the other day, if you're looking at this new visa and you have an SMC application, weigh up which path to continue with. You can go down both paths, or you can stay with just one, or you can change across. So if you're going for SMC and you know that you can't get the new one-off residence visa for whatever reason, then probably you want to stick with SMC, because at least you've got a chance there. If you know you can get residence through the one-off, and SMC you're not sure about, you're sort of borderline whether you're going to fit the ANSCO requirements, or then look at changing across to the one-off residence visa. It's up to you to make that decision, or to talk to a lawyer to help you make that decision as to what is best for you. But don't just think, I'm on SMC, I can go for one-off, because that may not be the case. And the final thing is, as to the fee, now there is no word yet as what the fee is going to be. Our expectation is that it is going to be probably a lower fee than we would have seen with skill market, because it is much less processing times. Now, they haven't set what the fee is going to be yet. We will hopefully know when we get the full set of rules in a few weeks' time. But we expect it to be definitely less than we see with other residence visas. Now, they have said that there is going to be an ability to, if you have applied for SMC, then perhaps to sort of bring across the fee across to the new application if SMC hasn't been processed yet. So that's going to be a great idea if that does take place. We'll, of course, let you know when we know more about that. And one last thing, if you do find this video or any of our videos useful, please like the video and remember to subscribe. If you comment on the video, I will do my best to try to respond to your comments. Doing that really does help us push the video out there, makes YouTube take notice and show the video to more people, and hopefully help us spread the word and help more people out with their immigration into New Zealand. That is it for today's video. Of course, I'll be doing the live session with Erica at Stanford MP tomorrow night. Link is down below. Until next time, which could be in a few days, could be next week, we don't know yet. Kia kaha and stay safe.